Why do people play the numbers game? It's dehumanizing and doesn't hold very well as an argument on its own. Stripped of its nuance, it's simply a number, to be regurgitated as an attempt to stop a conversation before it even begins. However, it's something we have to deal with. In my personal experience, one of, if not the most frequent objection to socialism that I've heard is, socialism killed 100 million people in the last century. It's uttered almost reflexively, as if it isn't a thought that one came up with on their own, but one that is almost taught to be shot back at a moment's notice. The figure comes from a work, notorious in its unreliability, called The Black Book of Communism. Now, we can go through each instance mentioned in the book and provide the nuance necessary to not only explain the number, but also arrive at a correct figure, be it higher or lower, usually much, much lower, than mentioned in the book. There might be some merit to that. Better yet, why don't we turn the argument on its head? How about capitalism's death toll? First of all, we need to define our terms. What exactly makes the system we currently live under capitalism? Well, it's simple. Unlike the propagandizing sophistry of some economists and other types, capitalism can be clearly defined by the existence of 1. Markets, 2. The private ownership of the means of production, and 3. Wage labor. Before some guy in a fedora tries to correct me, I'm talking about the scientific definition of these concepts, not the colloquial terms. Capitalism is a global system, and as a result, these factors exist, with few exceptions, globally. How does capitalism function? Primarily on one single concept, the drive for profit, the profit motive. For a capitalist to be successful, he has to beat out his competition by the most ruthless methods in order to secure as high a profit as possible to further develop their business. Kind-heartedness won't get you anywhere in this game. What this means, in essence, is that if it doesn't make you money, it isn't worth doing. Providing safe drinking water? No point. Vaccinations? A money pit. Housing? Why bother? Privatizing water sources? Kicking poor people out of cheap housing to build luxury condos? Defunding healthcare? Now that's profitable. This directly results in millions dying across the planet every year as a direct result of capitalist policies. Malnutrition kills over 3 million children each year. Factor in as thousands every single day. This isn't because we don't produce enough food, we do. In fact, we produce far more than we currently need, even when we factor in the massive waste of food that occurs in highly industrialized countries, again, as a direct result of capitalist policies. It isn't even because we don't have the distribution systems, we have that too. And for the places that lack it, it could very quickly be developed. Just look at how quickly mining and fuel companies get to the deepest and most isolated parts of our Earth for that which will make them money. The reasons that thousands of children die each and every single day is because it isn't profitable to save them, to treat them, to house them, to feed them. Similarly, and equally sad, is the situation with drinking water. Over 1 million people die each year because of lack of access to clean drinking water. Not only in Yemen or Mozambique, but even in the richest country on earth, the ever-free United States of America. Again, not because we can't provide clean drinking water, but because it isn't profitable to do so. The situation with preventable illnesses is equally dismal. Tuberculosis causes 1.5 million deaths yearly. Pneumonia kills 4 million. Malaria kills 500,000. This isn't mentioning other common illnesses like hepatitis or other vaccine-preventable diseases. We're talking easily over 6 million deaths each year because it's more profitable to invest and distribute acne and foot fungus cream than it is to provide vaccines and antibiotics to those that don't have much capacity to pay for it. Being conservative, that's 10 million excess deaths as a result of capitalism each year. That figure is actually low, in fact, as I'm not factoring in imperialist wars, intentional destabilization of governments due to either the lobbying or the direct intervention of corporations, or governments especially friendly to corporations, IMF restructuring of governments, and predatory loaning forcing austerity on populations worldwide, and on and on. These alone can raise it to 15 million, 20 million, or even higher. At this very conservative and very incomplete figure of 10 million a year, within a decade, capitalism kills more than socialism ever has, assuming socialism killed that many in the first place. Within a century, it can go as high as 1 billion deaths, possibly more. Immediately, the argument falls apart. No matter what way you try to twist it, capitalism is, by its very inbuilt components, a bloodier system. Again, I want to reiterate that this is all just food for thought. This is a moral argument, and I'm not particularly fond of moral arguments. Capitalism can be attacked with far more powerful blows in, for example, commenting on its inbuilt instability, or its falling rate of profit, or its boom and bust cycles, or the extraction of surplus value, on and on. Once all this is said, though, here come the excuses. It's corporatism, not capitalism, yells one corner. Well, I made a video on that, and you can check it out in the link in the description. Another corner yells out corruption, bad business practices, bad management, which equally doesn't hold any water as an argument. It is a good question, though. Why are these things a result of capitalism exactly? Capitalism requires new markets. Capitalism results in winners in the competitive sphere, resulting in monopolies. Capitalism results in capitalists acting in their own interests, lobbying governments to put in legislation that favors them directly. It's good for business to keep third world countries underdeveloped, or overexploited, as this is a more accurate term. That way you can keep extracting resources cheaply, and exploiting the labor also equally cheaply. It's good for business to suppress workers' movements, that way you can keep wages low and working hours long. It's good for business to care for profit over need. Not only is it good, it's necessary. This all results in the stagnation of wages at the very least, as is the case in the US today, or the forced depression of wages to as low as they can get, as is the case worldwide. This results in neocolonialism in the guise of the IMF or different countries like France or the US, political destabilization for capitalist gain in poor third world countries, with the United Fruit Company being the prime example, or even outright military invasion in the cases of Iraq and Afghanistan, to name just a few. The cases are endless. All of these things happen in order to secure resources, secure markets, and secure quote-unquote friendly governments that will give preferential treatment to the Exxons, Nestle's, and Teslas of the world. If you uphold capitalism, you must logically also uphold all that capitalism requires to function, be it unemployment, imperialism, environmental destruction, inequality, and exploitation. All of this results in poverty, the degradation of infrastructure, and limitations on the access of education, housing, and healthcare. In essence, excess death as a result of our beloved capitalist system. The cruel joke is that the system needs this. It is an inbuilt feature, not a fluke. Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative, it doesn't matter. It still happens, and will continue to happen unless the system is dismantled. This takes me to another point. Everything you hear about socialism, more or less, is capitalist projection. Workers work in monotonous, lifeless housing. They work dead-end jobs where they have no control over their workplaces. They live in a dictatorship where they have no political say and a distant group of elites run everything. Socialism killed millions. Not only is it projection, but those that promote capitalism, when confronted with this information, will try to shift responsibility by every other excuse: corruption, corporatism, bad management, etc. Individual action rather than the system itself. Damned be the evidence. What of the Black Book of Communism, then? The number of 100 million can realistically be traced only to this academic work, and I use those words loosely. Other than that, you see it in a few niche neo-Nazi sources which claim 100 million, 150 million, even much more in some instances. I think it's fair to dismiss those right off the bat. So why is the Black Book problematic? Well, how about a quick fire round? They count Nazi deaths in World War II as part of communism's death toll. This point alone is enough to condemn this book to the trash can. Not only this, but they count other things like civilian deaths that occurred as a result of the American invasion of Vietnam, through some strange logic, as part of the death toll of communism. Rigorous academics, these authors are. Two of the main authors have admitted to having far lower estimates, nearly half as much as the widely publicized 100 million mark. So why publish under the sensationalist 100 million figure? It includes people who weren't born as deaths, because, that makes sense. Basically, fertility rates went down in, for example, a famine. A woman who would have had 4 kids now only had 2, because, again, having more kids in a famine is a bad idea. Those 2 kids that could have been born, but never really existed, victims of communism. I hope you see how fucking ridiculous this is. I recall somebody doing something similar with US fertility trends just for the meme and got something like 4 or 5 million excess deaths. It'd be hilarious if it weren't taken seriously. outright invention of numbers, sometimes even throwing on 10, 20,000, or even 5 million deaths on a number just to be safe, practically pulling numbers out of their ass, unsourced of course. Counting pogromists that would round up and murder Jews, rightfully punished by the Soviets, as victims of communism, oh boy. And finally, the nail in the coffin is that 2 of the 3 main authors publicly distanced themselves from the book, saying that Courtois, the main author, had an unhealthy obsession with getting to the 100 million number, again, evidence be damned. It's a propaganda piece, plain and simple, and funnily enough, it only reinforces how stupid of an argument it is. To quote Chomsky, supposing we now apply the methodology of the Black Book to India, that democratic capitalist experiment has caused more deaths than in the entire history of communism everywhere since 1917. Over 100 million deaths by 1979, and tens of millions more since, in India alone. If you're interested in a more detailed dive into this sad excuse of a book, take a look at Revolutionary Left Radio's episode on it. I've linked it in the top comment. The sooner we put this nonsense to bed, the sooner we can be bombarded by other tired arguments of the anti-communists. Human nature. Hopefully, once those are satisfactorily dealt with, as well, we can move on to an actually productive discussion. Or not, bad arguments seem to never die. Pity, because the victims of capitalism continue to do so. And that's all for this time. If you enjoy my videos, then please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really does help. I'd like to thank my patrons, so thank you to Joseph Nicholson, Morgan Amol, Violet XD, Daniel Hyman, Zero Adams, Andrea CC97, ASDF, FDSA, Anses3, Zach, Zachary L. Petrovsky, D-Lop, Vegan Comrade, Ramal Bedier, Caleb Reeves, Aaron Vongdi, Ides of Marx, Biblaridian Fan, Abdullah Thutb, Gonzalo Lud, Cash Nelson, Preston Mains, Set, Sam Korth, Rima, Big Dummy Jack, Huge Ass, Princess Charlotte, William Hargis, Alex Dexheimer, Comrade Saul, Anarcho-Marxist, Richard Scott Wigton, Lee Gloucester, JC Diaz 547, Faisal Hussein, Ryan Hodgkinson, Samiran Sarkar, Annex Magnus, Patrick Mansouri, Philip Corrales, Jenny Enox, Comrade R, Alexander Shendi, Wild Bill, Brandon Vergara, A Comrade, at Southern Marxist, Close Sniper, Colin Morgan, Because Butts, Alex Bookbinder, Alex Benishek, Comrade Goat, D. Lang, Darius A. Birdhall, John Bernstein, John Poland, Noel, Nobody, Paul Luders, Pauline McDeesey, Rocco, Rose Hogginson, Scott Radburn, Alan Plum, Brandon Persuade, Coach Cinnamon T, Comrade Benito, Comrade Pengu, Dal McFarlane, Eli Garzon, Eugene Simonovsky, Farrah Tahan, Garlic Bread, Grammar Antifa, Granola Joe, Industrial Robot, Wes, Shongjia Hu, DV Gold Gamer, Phyllis Stakes, Job, Spooky Scary Socialist, Jordan Follows, Khan, Kyle Rapp, Liam Sapanen, Libertarian Stalinist, Mass Strike Now, Matt, Michael Reddy Webster, Namratha Prabhu, Natalie Taylor, Amar Abdi Jabbar, Parker Cushing, Ring, Rudy, Sid Singh, Sasi M, Ted Teddington Tedsville, Toki Mukai, Tristan Drian, Veral Dor, Zatarani, and Zaran Arsen. Thanks for watching.